Hello and welcome once again to another episode edition of A Cup of Conversation on BRT2 TV. My name is Jan Ghazi and I'm your host today on the program once again, and I have a very special guest, a gentleman I just met literally about an hour ago before this interview, and we were introduced, and his name is Yusuf Nidai, and he is currently the president of the Cyprus Turkish Tour Guides Association, and we'll be talking about tour guiding, about his background in Australia and Turkey, his love, his passion for dance, music, poetry, literature, everything. It's going to be a very interesting cup of conversation on today's program. So, first of all, Yusuf Nidai, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure to meet you. I've been listening to your interview with my colleague Denise Phillips with great interest.
Right.
And you are a very interesting man.
Thank you.
So let's go back to the beginning. Now, you are obviously a Turkish Cypriot, yes?
Yes, I am. I was born in Cyprus, raised in Turkey, and developed in Australia.
Wow, very international.
That's right.
You were born, I believe you said that you were born in Lefkoşa in
I was
Cyprus.
born in Lefkoşa. All my family is from Lefke. I was 4 when I left Cyprus. Because of my dad's work, he got transferred to Ankara, capital of Turkey, and we went there, and I grew up in Turkey.
What was your father's line of work?
Well, he was working for American Embassy, so
Right.
they got him transferred there because of the troubles in Cyprus in that time. I'm talking about 1965. And he got transferred there for the sake of his family. He accepted the offer, and we went to Turkey, and I grew up in there.
So that was in Ankara?
In Ankara, the capital, yes.
You were 4 years old when you left.
That's right, yes.
And so you said, as you said, you grew up in Ankara.
That's right, yes. I had all my education there, and after high school, my interest was dancing, so I went into dancing. So I studied dance. I danced in amateur groups first, then I became a professional dancer. For 6 months, I danced for state ballet company. Then after that, I moved into folk dancing, which was my passion. And I was a professional dancer for state folk dance ensemble in Turkey. Because I wasn't a citizen of Turkey, they granted me a special permit. So must have been doing well in that time. I was half of this, of course, yeah.
No, well,
59 kilos I was then.
Wow.
And then I worked as a professional dancer, toured around the world, dancing and earning money. Then in '81, I migrated to Australia as a young lad.
As a young lad, at about the age of 20?
That's right, yes.
It's very interesting. I mean, dance for a young man who was brought up in Turkey, in Ankara, not a very common
It's not.
profession, is it?
But it was my passion from my childhood.
Really? So when you were younger,
yeah,
you loved dancing?
that's right. Yes, and I started getting involved with Turkish folk dancing in that time in school, and then I decided to take it further, and I became a professional.
Amazing! What a great start to your young life, and I'm sure that your family supported you in this.
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah, it was a great support from my family.
Yeah, you were very talented. You are very talented. Do you still dance now at all?
Well, not in a great deal, but when I was in Australia for 30 years, I had my dancing school as well, and I was dancing there, teaching, and also doing workshops in Australia, in New Zealand, yes.
So that's what happened when you left at the age of 20, roughly. You went from Turkey to Australia.
That's right.
Why? What happened? Why did you want to leave?
I just, there was a military coup in Turkey in that time, in 1980, and I didn't want to live in that chaos. So I had my uncles and aunties living in Sydney, so I decided to move. My main reason was to get choreography education in there. But when I went there, I had no English at all, so I had to study. Well, I had to work first, of course, and I worked in many fields. You know, I worked as a factory worker, kitchen hand, bus driver, everything. But I decided to study and learn English. I said to myself, if I'm going to live in this country, I have to learn the language. So I started studying. 2.5 years. I always say to my friends and family, if I studied like that, I could have become a doctor.
Yeah.
So I was so passionate to learn the language. Then I didn't stop there. I went further studies, and I became interpreter translator, English, Turkish, Turkish, English, and working for education department in New South Wales.
I have to say, that is amazing because
It is.
I think interpretation or translation is very difficult. It's not just knowing the language. You have to know both languages very well.
That's right. You have to be able to get the phrases right as well, because word-to-word translation,
it doesn't work.
It's no good. Yeah, it doesn't.
Not
work.
like Google, where it gets it all wrong.
That's right.
When you use Google
it's
Translate,
funny, isn't it? Yeah.
So that means that you learned the English very well. Like you said, you were very passionate about studying.
Yeah, that's right. I studied very hard. Yes.
So in the end, you decided to also open up a dance school. You were teaching.
Well, it was the dance school from the beginning. As soon as I arrived to Australia in 1981. I started, I found people in the community and I started teaching Turkish folk dancing. And I had a lot of students. And one of my students at the beginning was my first wife. So she was my student. And she used to always tell everybody, she's still a good friend of mine. She used to say everyone that don't trust your teachers. Yeah. So, I ended up getting married to her in 1984. And in 1990, we had a child. Our son is 27 years old now, and he's a musician as well. So because of dance, I got involved with music. So I started singing and playing percussion, as well as teaching dancing. And on the side, I was working for my living, yes.
A very busy man.
I was, yeah.
Always, and you're still busy now as well here in North Cyprus.
I can't stop. It's, I'm kind of a workaholic, but I believe whatever you do in life, you got to love what you're doing. Otherwise, it will become a misery. Yes.
And the smile, the energy on your face, Yusuf Bey, it's very, very, uplifting. We can see the energy, the positive energy there.
Because I love life.
You love life, definitely.
Right,
and I have to say that you live in a very beautiful area, but we'll talk about that in a minute. We'll talk about you coming back to North Cyprus now, because as you said, you were in Australia, in Sydney,
That's right, yes.
working hard for a living, doing what you wanted to do, teaching, learning, everything.
That's right.
Then, I believe you came back to North Cyprus in 2010.
That's right.
Is that right?
Yes,
so it's been nearly 8 years now, yes? 8 years
that's right,
since you've been here. What brought you back to the TRNC?
Well, first, when I went to Australia, my mum and dad came over as well. So I've got two sisters still living in Australia. And mum and dad, after living there 10 years, they decided to come back after the retirement. And they come back to North Cyprus. They had a good life. After 5 years, my dad had a stroke, and 3 strokes in a row, and at the end, he couldn't speak at all. So I took him to Australia, and he was getting treatment there. And every time we were sitting at the backyard, he was watching the planes goes by, and he was going to me like this. He wanted to come back all the time. When he died in 2008, I brought his body over here and I buried him in a family cemetery in Lefke.
In Lefke.
My mum lives in Lefkoşa as well. So I went back, but I had an urge to come back. And it was, the life is all coincidences, I believe. I came to Turkey and Cyprus in 2009. I had a bit of an idea to come back. I just went around and looking for places, and when I went back in 2010 January, after 1.5 months of traveling Europe, Turkey and Cyprus, straight, I landed in Sydney. My son picked it up and straight to the hospital because I had extensive DVT, deep vein thrombosis, on my right leg.
Yeah.
Right leg. And my doctor said to me, lucky it could have went up as well. So I could have had a stroke.
While you were traveling, while you were flying?
That's right. So lucky that I was taking aspirin. So I was very lucky. And after my father, my sister had a stroke as well. So it's in our genes that blood is very thick. So that was a sign for me. I said, this is a very important sign. And I decided that there will be no ifs and buts in my life anymore. And I said to my wife, I want to go back. Do you want to come with me? She says, no, my family is here as well. We had our family meeting. My son chaired the meeting. He was 20 then. And we decided to get separated. And I came here to the unknown.
To the unknown.
And start from a scratch again.
From scratch. So here you are now. The year is 2010, and you're back on the island of Cyprus, which you left basically for good when you were age of 4. So
that's right.
It's a big time span there for you.
That's right, yes.
Lots of differences on the island. You are now living in the beautiful village of Bademnikoi.
That's right.
And I heard you telling my colleague Denise Phillips on the radio that you found an old house.
That's right.
You had, back down to 3 walls and then rebuilt it again.
That's right.
And you've shown me some photographs on your computer, on your iPad there. Amazing. Beautiful.
You.
If I was living there, I would never leave my home. I would make sure that I had a job from home and make an office in my house. Beautiful.
It is nice. And I about 5 years ago, I met the woman of my life, my soulmate. She was married and divorced as well. She came to Cyprus for her daughter's studies. She came with her, and through a friend we met, and we ended up getting married. And about 1.5 years ago, in a beautiful beach of Akdeniz, it was a beach wedding, and our witnesses were our children.
What a lovely
son
story.
And our daughter, yes. And it's in that beautiful house that you're talking about, up on the mountain. It's a small cottage, but it's our life there, actually. It's got a name, the character as well, our house. It's called Saksıda Sardunya. That means a pot, geranium in a pot.
Yeah.
And we're living there happily, and we don't want to leave the house, but I got to work and I got to make my living, yeah. And I work as a freelance tourist guide. Right,
okay, so even though your father, you buried him in Lefke, you're not too far. I mean, Bademnikoi is not too far
very,
from.
very close.
So you found that property there.
That's right.
That's where you're living now. And you decided to make a living.
That's right.
Something now very, very suitable for North Cyprus, tour guide.
Well, when I came back to Cyprus, I didn't know anybody at all.
Yeah.
Only my relatives and my mum. And I had few friends, and I had a big CV. I mean, I've got an experience in many fields. I worked in hotel industry as well. I worked in Sydney Hilton for 5 years, and I managed a hotel in Turkey for 1 year. So I had that experience on my background. I'm a translator interpreter. I've got a lot of certified jobs on my back. So, but with that CV, I couldn't find a job here. So one of my friends, he was a guide, and he said to me, "All your life you work with people. So you love being with people, why don't you become a tourist guide?" And I went and studied and became a tourist guide. And after several years, now, thanks to our members of Fikret, the Tourist Guide Association North Cyprus, 6th of November 2017, they've elected me as the president of the association.
Congratulations in your new post.
Thank you very much.
I wish you all the best for your position as president of the association. Now, this is a topic close to my heart because when I began working on the radio, and we began a tourism program that was actually started by the Ministry of Tourism.
Right.
And they said to us at the radio, by the way, since that you're doing this program, we are also, they had courses then, where to become a tour guide,
that's right.
you take a few weeks course, or you go around, you learn all the...
It was very short.
It was actually a few months, should I say.
Yeah.
We used to go to a different location every weekend.
Right, yes.
We had courses during the week, and then we had an exam at the end. And I took it, I did it. So I do actually have the qualification, but I've never done tour guiding. I had my card.
You probably might consider coming back, yeah?
But it's very interesting. So did you then join a similar course like that? Did you do a course?
Yes, I've done a course. Yeah, I finished the course. And after that, I started working full-time in one of the big firms in North Cyprus. And I worked with them nearly 5 years, and I decided to become a freelance. So
you're independent now?
I am independent. Whoever calls me, I go and guide for them.
And that means anywhere in North Cyprus, you can, take your guests to Gazi Mausa, to Karpaz.
Yeah, definitely.
Anywhere.
Well, we usually work with the travel agencies, the A1 class travel agencies. They bring tourists from overseas, and they give us a call. If we're free, we go and guide their tourists all around Cyprus. So wherever they want to go to, we go and take them around and give them information about our country.
Do you normally work in Turkish or in English, or both? I mean,
well, I'm a qualified English tourist guide, but I do work with Turkish people from Turkey as well. I do guide in Turkish as well. Yes.
It's a great way to meet people and also to see the island. It's beautiful, isn't it?
That's right. Well, I mean, I always say, and I cannot be humble about this, I'm living in the best island in the world. So,
and this is coming from somebody who lived in the biggest island in the world,
I mean,
Australia.
The passion of Mediterranean is something different, yeah?
Let me ask you, because you say this in such a, reassuring way, do you think that we are living in paradise in North Cyprus? We should really value our country more than we do, don't you think?
We should, definitely we should. Because, I mean, I always say to people, if you live outside of the country and you come back to your country, you'll appreciate it more.
Yeah.
Truly. I mean, the people in Cyprus who always lived in Cyprus, they don't appreciate their country. Truly, this is the best island in the world. We've got everything. We've got the nature, we've got the sea, we've got beautiful beaches, we've got a vast history in our island. The human existence on the island goes back 10,000 years, the Neolithic times, the Stone Age. I always make a joke in my tours that, comics that we used to see on television, the Flintstones.
Yeah, the Flintstones, yeah.
Wilma and Fred, yeah. They're originally from Cyprus. No, just kidding.
Yeah,
Barney's from elsewhere.
Yeah, Barney and the others are from elsewhere.
That's right. Yeah.
It's good.
But truly, I mean, there is no other way that I can describe my country, but it is a paradise. Truly, it's a paradise.
Well, that's amazing to hear from somebody. I mean, I lived in the UK. I lived in London. And I can't really say London is paradise because London was just a built-up metropolitan city.
I'm sorry to say. I mean. I do apologize to the viewers at the moment. There could be some viewers from UK as well. I'm sorry to say, but I reckon London is one of the miserable cities in the world. It is a beautiful city. I mean, don't get me wrong, the history and everything, but the people of London, I went there and I've seen people so miserable, long faces, nobody says hello to each other. You know, I was reading a magazine, and it's a very serious study. It's been done in 2016, and it says the unhappiest people in the world, although they're economically very well off, they're the people from Scandinavian countries. and that's the highest suicide rate in there as well. The reason being because there's no sun. Sun makes people happy.
Yes.
That's why we're a happy bunch.
That's why we're a happy nation.
That's right.
Here in North Cyprus, we have lots of sun here in the TRNC.
Exactly.
Yeah, a great thought there. Yes, I agree with that, 100%, Yusuf Bey. So, you are now, how did you get involved with becoming president? Because it's one thing being a freelance tour guide or doing, guides.
Well, I mean, being a guide, you meet a lot of people. And although I didn't know anybody when I first came to TRNC, probably I know half of North Cyprus now because of my work. I've got a passion about my work. I love being a guide, and I love giving information to our guests coming from other countries to our country, and the satisfaction at the end of the tour that they're very happy to see our country and enjoy what we've shown them about our country as well. That gives me a great satisfaction. And because of that, I like to work with my colleagues, everybody in the industry, the drivers, the hoteliers, the agencies, and I assume that I build a sort of a confidence within the tourism industry that people like to work with me, and within my colleagues as well. I love all of them. So at the annual general meeting, I decided to run for the presidency. And actually, what we do in our annual general meeting, they choose the management committee, and the management committee in their first meeting choose a president amongst them.
Right.
So they've chosen me in that management committee as well. They voted for me. Thank you very much for them. And I dedicated part of my life now to work for our association and make it better and more sort of a respectful organization within the tourism industry in TRNC.
It is very well respected. Fikret is very well known here in the TRNC. So is it, you come together regularly, talk about the problems of tour guides, what's developing, I mean?
Well, yeah, we try to, in the management committee, our job is to work for our members. If they've got any problems, try to solve them and create more opportunities for them, and just basically, defend the rights of our members within the industry. Yes.
How many tour guides do you think there are out there? I mean, we have.
Well, I mean, if you look at the tour guides has been studying and becoming tour guides since 1974, there are. They're nearly 2,000.
Wow.
But not everybody is active, like you.
Yeah, for instance, I might be on the record.
You've got the license, you're on the record, but you're not doing it. But at the moment, we've got around about 200 guides registered and ready to guide in our country at the moment.
That's a good number.
But not all 200 of them are active. Probably you can say around about 100 are very active. The others are, doing it time to time.
Tourism is obviously one of our biggest sources of income on the island. Definitely. It is, we are, as you say, paradise on earth, a beautiful country. Have you seen a change in the number of tourists or the types of tourists coming over to the island now? Because I mean, over the years.
I reckon advertising our country is the main thing that we have to do. I mean, giving them a good service, the tourists come to our country because we want them back. Yeah. Not like the big countries that they don't care if those people do come back to their country again. But we need them to come back. Yeah. So the better we present our country to the tourists that come to our country is better. we will get a return out of that. But doing the promotion of our country is very important. Like I was involved with one of the biggest fairs, tourism fairs in the world, Emit in Istanbul, which happened last week. And I was there representing our organization in that sense, of course, trying to represent our country as well.
Yeah.
And it was very successful. We've done a great job in Emit. All the people who are there, like the hoteliers, KTOP, the Association of the Hotels in here, also KTSAP, the Travel Agencies Association, all the hotels there, the eco projects in our country, which is the future of our tourism, I reckon. That's my own opinion. We all represented our country in there in a very good way, and thanks to the Ministry of Tourism, because they set up that beautiful stand, which became the best stand in Emit. That was a good achievement as well.
Fantastic, well done.
And I'm very proud that we've taken part of that tourism fair as well. So those kind of attempts and trying to promote our country with the introduction movies, with our attractions in here, because as I mentioned before, we've got everything. We've got the beautiful beaches, we've got the sun, probably 8-10 months a year, we've got the sun, we've got the history, we've got everything here. And the eco-tourism, agro-tourism is the way to go. It's a growing trend in the world. And especially in the west of the country, of course, there are some work in Karpats Peninsula as well, but the west of the country is working really hard, especially Akdeniz, the Akdeniz village there. Also, the Bağlıköy, Lefke being a Sita-Slow. There are other Sita-Slow cities in our country like Mehmetçik and Yeni Boğaziçi. We have to work on it really hard, because that's the trend of the world. We've got beautiful walking tracks. We've got everything in this country. So
we certainly do.
We have to promote it better.
Well, I think that, you know, you live in one of the most beautiful parts of the country.
Right,
you know, Yeşilırmak and Bademliköy.
Definitely.
I mean, I said to you before, didn't I, about we go in that direction when it's time for strawberries in Yeşilırmak. And Badem is, of course, you know, almonds. Where are the almonds today?
Well, unfortunately, in 1995, there was a big bushfire.
Yeah, the fire, yes.
And most of the almond trees are gone. We've got Bademliköy is a very small village. You wouldn't know if you're in and out of the village when you're going to Yeşilırmak. It's just a small village. It's only 37 houses and 65 people living in it. Right. And we're proud to be, me and my wife, we're proud to be part of it as well.
Well, next time I'm driving that direction, I will look out for Bademliköy, and I'll say, Yusuf Bey lives here.
You should come for a coffee.
Definitely, I will. Now, you know, 10 fingers, 10 different talents that you have. Next thing that I want to talk about is that you mentioned Akdeniz.
Yes.
And I know that you said that you're not a stranger to the mic or to television or radio, because
I'm not,
you've done some promotional work, voiceovers. You have a very good microphonic voice.
Thank you.
And you said that about a year and a half ago, you did a special documentary.
And a great director from BRT as well, Mehmet Bozkurt, shoot that.
He's a good friend, yes.
Yeah. And I've done this, I've written the script for it, and I've done the narration on the English one as well. You can find it on YouTube. It's called Akdeniz Village. And I asked dear friends of the British community living in TRNC, and 30 people actually, the British residents in TRNC. They came and they were the actors and actresses in that introduction movie.
Excellent.
And it is a great promotional video, about 6 minutes. You know, I've been involved in that as well. Well, I mean, when we talk about that, when I was in Australia, I've done a bit of journalism and also radio work. I was a programmer, and I've done a bit of a television work as well there as a programmer and a presenter as well. So I'm not a stranger to this
in this environment. Yeah, you got a very good voice, and I know that you also write. And you've written poems, and we're going to have a poem from you in a minute. But you said to me before, because I noticed when we were looking at Facebook and our mutual friends, a great friend of ours at Bayrak Radio and TV, Mr. Zeki Ali,
yes,
who is a great musician and a great poet himself.
That's right.
You know him, and you're talking about one of the most famous poets in your area, in Lefke, Fikret Amira.
That's right.
And you've come together, you have a sort of...
well, it is a very interesting story. Actually, my love with my wife has fired up in that organization as well. Fikret Amira is a great poet who passed away in 2010. And since then, writers and the poets organization in TRNC, they've been organizing an event in his anniversary of death every year. And they were coming to Lefke to read his poems and all that in there. And we got involved there, me and my wife as well. And then in 2016, I said to them, after that event, we invited them to our beautiful house in Bademlikköy. We had coffees there, and I said to them, why don't we organize this event as an international event, because Fikret Amira is an internationally known poet of Cyprus. And they liked the idea as well, Zeki Ali as the president of that association, and the other friends like Tamer Öncül and Fikret Amira's wife, Emine Demira. And we formed a committee and we involved the municipal council of Lefke and the mayor, Aziz Kaya, and a great friend of mine, also the guide, our ex-president, Hasan Karlitaş. Also, we involved the University, International University of Lefke, European University of Lefke, and Mehmet Ali Yükselen, the director of the university. We all got together in one committee, and we started working for an international event, which the first one happened in 2017. And it was a 3-day event. It was very successful. We had panels at the university. We had poets came from all over the world, from France, from Greece, from Italy, from Turkey, the poets from here. We had panels. We talked about poetry with the students in the university. We had events in Lefke. We opened up a special kind of a museum, poetry room of Fikret Amira with the help of Municipal Council of Lefke. And we have built a little open-air theater in Bademlikköy on top of the sea. And our last event was there, that we're thankful to the Municipal Council to help us on that. And last event was there, and we throw music and poets into Mediterranean Sea from there.
Amazing. Sounds like a great event. And so will there be a second one this year then?
Of course, it will be continued.
What time of the year is this?
This will be at the end of November. That's the death of, you know, the anniversary of his loss
Yeah.
of Fikret Amira.
Okay, so
So it will be end of November. Yeah.
very good. So I'm sure you're planning it already now. From
Definitely.
now.
We started planning it now, yes.
So, with poetry in mind, I know that you have your little, iPad there ready,
Right,
waiting.
okay.
You write in Turkish, don't you?
That's right. I
your
write in
poetry?
Turkish. I've started writing poetry for about 15, 20 years ago when I was in Australia. And it was all the passion about Cyprus, of course, in that time that I was writing in
Yeah.
Australia. And some of my poems have been published in different literature
Wow.
magazines as well. And I love writing. I don't write very often, but I do still write. And I started a little autobiography, kind of a story way about myself. It's still very new, but it will take probably about 2 years to complete. But my poetry, it's in one of my plans to publish them as well, yes.
We'll look forward to that as well. What's your inspiration for your poetry? Is it your life experiences? Is it the country of Cyprus?
Well,
love?
I usually write for love and passion, and also the country and the life of humankind. Yes.
Well, Yusuf Bey, I would love to hear you read a poem of yours or a snippet of something.
I'll be glad. Yeah.
Okay, then.
But
so
it will be in Turkish.
Don't
yeah?
worry, you can share in Turkish. You get yourself ready now.
Okay,
and
sure.
I'd like to remind our viewers that my guest today on the programme is Yusuf Nidai, who is currently the president of the Cyprus Turkish Tourist Guide Association in the TRNC, living in Bademliköy. And so tell us what this poem is about before you read it.
This particular one is about my wife. She is a Turkish born in Macedonia. And when she was 14, she went to Turkey. She grew up in Turkey, got married there, had a daughter, got divorced, daughter grown up, and they come to Cyprus for her studies. That's how we met, as I said before. But the people, migrants, we call them göçmen.
Yes.
Göçmen kızı, which means a migrant girl.
Yes.
So my wife is göçmen kızı.
So
as
she's
well.
the inspiration for this poem. Then, in a way.
I've written this in 2015, in actually February 2015, when she went to Turkey to visit the family.
Yeah.
And I was alone in our beautiful house, in front of the fireplace, and thinking of her, and I've just written this.
Wow, romantic.
Very romantic. It's called Göçmen Kızı. İnce sazın tınısıyım şöminenin ateşinde. Kara saplanmış özlemlerimiz. Sevdiceğim şehri İstanbul'da, ben yüreğimizin birlikte attığı yerde. Zivaniye sıvanmış aşkıma, uzanıp meze olabilsen. Üşüyen yüreğim, ısıtan merhemi hasretimin. Sesini duydum telefonun öbür ucunda, uzanıp öpesim geldi nefesini. Hasretim, ömrüm, tadım göçmen kızı.
Very nice, beautiful. I'm sure she was very touched by that
She
poem.
was, yes.
How nice to have a poem written about you when you were far away from your loved one and you thought of her, a romantic man.
That's right, thank you.
You also have music, although we don't have
That's
time
right.
today to listen
right.
to a song from you, but I know that
That's
you have a song on YouTube, is that right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I sing Turkish classical music in a, I have to say, the best Turkish classical music choir
Yeah.
in TRNC. It's the group called the Karinia Council Classical Music Choir.
Yeah.
And our director is Ihsan Gürel. I sent my love from here to him. And I sing in that choir as well as a soloist as well. And the one in YouTube is called İkinci Bahar, the second spring. And I sang it to my beloved wife, and that was part of the performance. They put it on YouTube as well.
And that is a beautiful track that we all know and love.
Yes.
İkinci Bahar, a very good track. So you can, I mean, how can we find it? Just write İkinci Bahar,
Yusuf Nidai,
Yusuf
and
Nidai,
you can find it
and it will come
YouTube.
up. Okay then,
That's
so
right,
I want to say thank you very much.
Thank you.
For a very interesting couple of conversations today.
That's right,
you know, you are an amazing man.
You've got a very interesting and lovely name for the program, Cup of Conversation.
Thank you very much.
Yes, yeah.
And you've certainly given us a great, interesting program today.
Thank you very much for having me. Yes.
I wish you all the best as the president of Fikret for this period at the moment. You've got a good year coming up, I'm sure. Good luck with your music, with your poetry, with your dancing.
And my love.
And your love.
That's right.
And your lovely wife and your lovely home in Badem Nikoy.
Thank you.
If I'm ever in the area, I will come and have a coffee with you.
Definitely come and have a cup of coffee.
Definitely.
And I've got passion in life for two things. Actually, three things that I should say. One of them is my beloved wife. The other one is our children. And the third one is my beautiful country.
With those thoughts, I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming again. And I look forward to catching up with you in the future to find out what's going on when it comes to your life here in North Cyprus, because you made it very, very interesting for everyone out there.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you.
And with that, we have come to the end of this very interesting edition of A Cup of Conversation with Mr. Yusuf Nidai. And I hope you enjoyed the programme. Until we meet again next week in the studios of BRTK Nevkosha, take care, go well, and bye-bye.